Hello everybody, what is up? I'm not sure if you can see me. I think you should be able to. There's quite a bit of buffer between what I'm seeing on my phone and what I'm actually doing live. But anyways, I just wanted to give some kind of description right now about what I've done to this aquarium the past couple days. So if you've seen one of my recent videos, it was a massive update in which I basically replaced my 30-gallon aquarium with the 75-gallon aquarium. And I got this brand new from Petco. During this month of July 2023, they're having this 50% off sale on lots of their fish care products. So it was honestly the perfect time for me to do this upgrade, and I'm glad I did. Because as you can see, my goldfish here, they're having a great time. They're really enjoying all this free available space. Something that they used to do was Georgiani right here. She used to be pretty aggressive towards Epifania, which is out and up there. And I would notice that whenever Epifania would try like digging around in the sand, the substrate at the bottom of the tank, Georgiani would start like chasing her around the tank. And I think she was doing that because she was getting territorial over just the food and the space in the tank. But over the course of the past few days, since I've had this 30-gallon aquarium, this 75-gallon aquarium, I haven't observed that at all. So I'm glad to see that. Something I did as well was in the video, you might have noticed that I had this a large filter up here. It was an external like filter that was a clip-on to the back of it. And I got rid of that and replaced it with two sponge filters. And I did that because the sponge filters, for one thing, they're a lot more quiet. Like these barely make any noise at all. Whereas the hang-on filter, it was making tons of noise, it was splashing, and it just got kind of loud at night when I was trying to sleep. The sponge filters are also really simple. As you can see, there's no moving parts. It's just an air tube that comes down and like spits out air bubbles. And as you can imagine, as you can see, as you know, the air bubbles float up to the top, and that creates a current. It kind of sucks the water up with it. And that water gets sucked through the sponge, and that's how it works. The air going up is sucking water through the sponge. And both of these sponges here, they have tons of surface area so that lots of beneficial bacteria can grow on them, and it serves the exact same purpose as any other kind of filter you might have hanging on the back of your tank. As for the cost basis, I guess it's cheaper, I'm not sure. I already had the air pump with me. I didn't have to buy that separately. So I didn't have to take that into account for the cost, but it's definitely something you can look into if you're looking into like upgrading your filter system for any size aquarium. As you can imagine, like a bigger aquarium requires more. It requires a bigger sponge. It requires just more air moving through. Something that's also pretty nice about the sponge filter is that it serves as a great oxygenator for the water. You can see the air bubbling through the water, and that provides enough oxygen for these two fish just fine. You can see here my plants are doing just fine. You may be wondering what those like two things are right here kind of in the back. Those are basically that's like a activated carbon filter cartridge from the filter that was hanging on the back, as well as a sponge that was full of like a beneficial bacteria colony from the 30-gallon tank. I just put that in here and kind of squeeze them next to the sponge filters the first night I put them in there to try and get the beneficial bacteria colonies established as fast as possible. That way there's not, it's better for the tank. That way I ensure that the tank's not going to go through like an ammonia spike or nitrite spike. And it'll just make sure that the filters are working right away. And I haven't checked my water yet, but it's not having any foul smell to it. It's not stinky. The fish aren't showing any kinds of signs of stress. They're just swimming around like any happy goldfish would. So I'm pretty glad for that. Let me get out of the way here, and I'll talk about my shrimp tank. I think you should be able to see me from here as well. The shrimp tank over there, it's kind of far away, and as you can imagine, the shrimp are tiny. The adult shrimp are only about an inch long, so they're kind of hard to see from this distance, but they're there. If you watch my previous video, you'll know that I have probably about 50 to 60 shrimp in there of various stages of life. I have adult, adolescent, and little baby shrimp, and they're doing great. They eat pretty much the biofilm that grows on everything in the tank. A couple days ago, I actually bought like these green algae wafers that are intended for shrimp, specifically herbivore shrimp like cherry shrimp. And I put one of those in the tank last night, and there's been almost no shrimp eating it whatsoever. So that's just a sign to me that all the shrimp are already being fed just fine with the biofilm that's growing in the tank. So maybe in a week or so, I'll try putting another one of those pellets in there. I plan on those just being kind of like a supplement to their normal source of food, which is the biofilm. So that's it for now. Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions yet, but if you have any, feel free to type them in the chat, and I'll come here and I'll respond to them. Thanks. I actually decided I'll just come and kind of sit here, and that way I can just kind of continue talking what comes to my mind as the stream goes on. I'll be right back, actually. Okay, here I am again. Something I wanted out of all my aquariums was I wanted to have it next to a window that got sunlight. Now, lots of people don't do this with their aquariums because they don't want algae to grow in the tank, and they don't want algae to take over the fish tank aquarium. There's nothing wrong with having algae in the tank. It just makes it harder to see the fish, and it might not look as pretty. It might just like not look quite as what you would imagine a clean aquarium to be. But that doesn't bother me because, for one thing, I have live plants in the tank. I have some Java moss, I have this Amazon sword plant, and some hornwort growing over there. So that's already right there, one reason for the sunlight. Another reason is, believe it or not, the goldfish will actually eat the algae off of the glass. Now, they're not gonna like clean it and scrape it off super like 100%. But once it gets to a certain length, once it starts getting long enough, they're actually able to kind of scrape some of it away. And once you have enough algae growing on the side of the tank, you can actually see them doing that. And it's pretty neat. And I'm sure the fish enjoy eating the algae as well. So that's kind of like, that's pretty much why I like to leave it in this tank. Now, you'll see me like occasionally take the scraper and scrape away the front of the front panel of the aquarium. And that's just so that I can see the fish better. But like, I'll leave the back completely just naturally covered with the algae. I'll leave the sides normally covered with the algae as well. And that's just so that the fish can enjoy eating it. I'm sure the algae actually also plays a role in keeping the nitrate level down, because they incorporate those nitrate compounds into like their cells and their cell walls and the proteins that they're made of. So there's a true benefit to it. I guess it can also help produce oxygen, trace amounts. I'd imagine it'd be a food source for other kind of microorganisms in the tank as well that help keep the balance of everything, that help keep the fish tank healthy. Because goldfish, just like any other kind of organism and live animal on Earth, they do not thrive in a sterile environment. Like, if you think about it, there's bacteria, there's fungi, there's microfauna, there's microorganisms all around us. We're breathing them in every second. They're on our skin, they're on the food, they're on the clothes we wear, they're everywhere. They're inescapable. They're inside of us, they're in our guts, in our digestive systems, and life would be much more difficult to survive in a sterile environment. If you think of like a biodiverse area, like a rainforest or the ocean, you think of how many organisms there are, how many microorganisms there are, and how they all play together into this food web, this live ecosystem. You realize that all those organisms are important. So just kind of carrying that idea over to a fish tank or to an aquarium, it makes sense why you would want a full ecosystem inside of an aquarium as well. You wouldn't want fish trying to survive in a sterile environment because that's not how they're supposed to survive. That's not how they're supposed to live. I don't know if this makes me weird or not, but lots of times I'll just kind of like sit on a chair in front of my aquariums and I'll just watch my fish swim around. It's kind of like, it's a fun pastime. It's also kind of like, it's a calming, soothing thing to do, I guess. Helps me relax if I'm stressed out. I've been thinking about doing some research online to try and find out how I can train my goldfish to do certain things, like swim through hoops or follow my finger around, maybe even jump out of the water one day. I think that'd be pretty neat to do. Lots of people have this misconception that goldfish are like incredibly dumb creatures, but I actually read online before that they're amongst the smartest species of fish out there. Like, they're like, oh, goldfish have this 3-second attention span. Well, to be honest, lots of humans have super short attention spans as well, and that doesn't necessarily make us all dumb. But I think it's kind of neat, the idea of training a goldfish. To be honest, they actually already are kind of trained. If I walk up to the tank, they'll swim towards me and kind of like suck on the water and swim up to the top because they want me to feed them. And they've associated my presence with being fed. So that's already one example of how they're trained already. Just inadvertently, just kind of like it happens naturally. I think this is a pretty neat time of the day as well, just because in the afternoon the sun shines through this window. I guess it's a west-facing window. And you can see the rays of sunshine shining through the water. The fact that you can see the sun shining through the water means that the water is not crystal clear, obviously. Lots of it is just kind of like little tiny pieces and specks and flakes of stuff like sediment, of decomposing fish waste, or decomposing plant matter. Like, you'll notice I have some leaves in here. And that just happens because goldfish, they love to like go down to the bottom of the tank and like suck on the sand. They'll bite into it, they'll like dig through it, and they'll spit it back out. And that actually spreads lots of like the sediment and little tiny debris all into the water. You can watch Georgiani doing that right now. They do that looking for food. So if you just watch for a few minutes, you'll see them doing that. That's actually one specific aspect about goldfish that makes them incredibly bad when you put them into their non-native ecosystem or environment. Because I'm sure you're aware, if you're watching this, goldfish are considered an invasive species. And they're just super good at surviving in freshwater, I guess. One of the ways in which they just kind of like outcompete native wildlife in freshwater ponds and streams is exactly what I'm talking about now. They'll dig through the bottom of the lake bed or the stream bed, and they'll just eat up everything that they can find, whether that's plant matter or animal matter, and they actually make the water really dirty. As you can tell by this, they like make it all cloudy with all the substrate and mud and whatever is at the bottom of the water source. And something that does is it blocks sunlight from reaching all the plants and algae along the bottom of the lake or river or whatever, and that starts decreasing the amount of food that's available for other organisms. And basically, from the bottom, they start eating away at this food web until they start outcompeting other animals and other plants until they're one of the last species in there. And that's just one reason why they're really bad. That's one reason why you cannot just like release a goldfish into a lake, into a pond, into a stream, into a river once you're done with it. If you have to like move or something, or if you just don't want the responsibility of taking care of it anymore, you gotta either give it away or sell it, donate it. I'm sure there's ways to ethically euthanize a goldfish. I haven't looked into that online myself because I haven't had to do that yet personally. But one thing for sure is you don't want to release it into the wild. It's not a good idea. I still have no questions here, but I'm ready and willing to answer questions you might have, so don't feel shy. If you'd like me to do a live stream on any kind of like my plants or my bonsais or anything like that, feel free to either mention it in the comments in the chat here, or you can straight up comment on any one of my videos. I promise you I will see it. I'm not that popular yet. I will see your comment and I will respond, and I'll try and make it happen. Just give me 1 second and I'll grab the little cans of food that I've been giving my goldfish. So for the most part, when I feed my goldfish, I just feed them goldfish flakes, nothing special. This brand is Tetra Goldfish Vitamin C Enriched Flakes. This is like the standard, the OG stuff. If you go to Walmart, you'll see this. If you go to Pet Store, PetSmart, Petco, you'll see this stuff. And it works just fine. As I said, it's primarily what my goldfish have been eating since I've had them. And as you can see, they've grown quite a bit. And they're healthy and they're happy. I also have these goldfish pellets. I'm not super educated in terms of like which brand is best out there, but I just got these because they're pellets and they sink. And they work a lot better if I want to like give my goldfish a little snack or a little treat, or if I want to try and train them, for example. With these, I can actually grab each individual pellet and give them like one pellet at a time if I want to. And it makes it super convenient for giving them treats, like I mentioned. And I'm sure they enjoy it. It's like a mixed up. That way they're not always only eating the goldfish flakes. Sometimes they have these sinking pellets as well, and it mixes things up for them. It's pretty funny because one time I tried to give them a bunch of these pellets all at once instead of feeding them these flakes. And it was pretty funny to watch them try and eat as many as they could as fast as they could. They like filled up their entire mouths with these things to the point where they were like constantly opening and closing their mouths trying to chew them. And I could see their mouth and throat was just completely filled up with these pellets because they just were trying to gobble them down as fast as they can. And they just kind of like hovered in the water for several minutes, just opening and closing their mouths trying to chew these pellets, because it takes a couple of minutes for them to get completely soft in the water because they're dry and they're hard because they're sinking pellets. So that was kind of amusing. When I saw that happen, I decided I wouldn't do that all the time, at least for now, because I don't want them getting their little mouths or their throats clogged up with these pellets by accident. With the flakes, they're flakes, of course, so they, for the most part, float at the top of the water until they absorb so much water they get all soft and flimsy, and then they start sinking. So there's not really a concern for the fish getting these flakes stuck in their throats and clogged up in their throats like that, just because of how soft they are. It only takes them a couple of seconds to chew an entire mouthful. So on the topic of food, I'll actually give them a little snack right now. Trying to let you see. In my finger I have one pellet. You can't really see it, but watch how Georgiani already knows to come up to the top. Let me try and get one to sink so you can see her chase it down. It's right there. I don't know if you can see it. And she got it. Let's see if I can get Epifania. There you go. I just gave Epifania like a big cluster of several pellets that were stuck together. So that counts as multiple pellets. Still no questions or comments. Let me think what else I can talk about this. I got these goldfish pretty much in the middle of the month of March of 2023. So I've had them for just about 4 months. When I got them, they were the small feeder goldfish, comet goldfish from Petco. They were 15 cents each. They were probably about this big, so just over an inch long. And now if I was to guess, they're probably 4.5 inches long. I'm estimating they're about 5 months old in total. So once they hit the 1 year mark, I'm pretty excited to see how big they'll be by then, because that'll be another 6 or 7 months of growth. I'm thinking they may get to be like 10 inches to 12 inches long total. So that'll be pretty exciting to see. As for their biological sex, if they're a male or a female, they're still kind of too young to tell. Because they're not like their adult version yet, so I'm not sure. I do notice that Georgiani does seem considerably like rounder and bulkier than Epifania does. So that kind of makes me think that Georgiani may be female and Epifania may be actually male. But as I just mentioned, like they're still too juvenile to be able to really tell. At least for an amateur dude like me. Maybe like some professional goldfish keeper and breeder would be able to tell by now, but I am neither of those things. I'm just a guy who enjoys goldfish. I'm really glad about how Epifania has been keeping her like kind of dual tone color scheme. When I first got her, it was like I didn't choose these two goldfish specifically. The person working at Petco just put them in the bag, and I said that was good. And yeah, I just noticed immediately Epifania had like the kind of darker orange, almost kind of reddish color on like the top half of her body, and the bottom half is that silvery white color. And I'm just glad she's kind of like kept that dual color scheme, because as lots of goldfish get bigger and mature and get older, their colors change a little bit. So I'm glad she's still kind of colorful like that. speaking of colors on goldfish, um, koi fish are really cool. They're not goldfish, but they're kind of related as far as I understand. I'm not super sure, but they're related and they're really colorful. Lots of koi fish have two, three, sometimes four different colors on them all at once, and I think that's super neat. One day I want to have some koi fish, whether that be in a pond or just like a separate large tank like this, but I don't expect that to be until like down the road, many years from now. But for sure, one day I want to have some. I think they're super beautiful and elegant, and there's kind of like a special grace about them that goldfish or other kind of pet fish don't necessarily emanate, if that makes sense. Maybe it's the whole like yin yang symbology thing, or the fact that they're just a really big fish. I don't know. So I've been streaming for 49 minutes now. I'm still hoping to at least get one question or comment because that would be pretty neat. You can be honest with me. Do you think I'm weird, or do you think I'm a nerd or geek or something because this is what I'm doing on a Saturday night? Making live stream videos of my goldfish that maybe one or two other people are watching. It's okay. If you think I'm a nerd for doing this, you can feel free to shame me in the comments below. I won't be offended, I promise. Not gonna lie, I'm getting a little sweaty with this sock hat beanie on because it's kind of. I have the AC set to 80 degrees because it's summertime and it's like really hot outside, and I don't want to pay for tons of electricity. So it's kind of. For a normal house, this is kind of warm, even though technically it's cooler than outside still. But regardless, I'm getting kind of sweaty in this beanie. But it's my thing. This is just kind of thinking down the road in the future. Sometimes I wonder, what if Epifania and Georgiani happen to be the two opposing sexes, male and female? And what if, like, sometime a few months from now, they breed and this tank gets full of fish eggs? And just because of how big it is, maybe like a few will survive somehow without being eaten. And then I'll be able to have some more goldfish. Maybe if that ever happens, I'll set up like a separate bowl or one of those temporary small 1 gallon size aquariums that I can use to like kind of try and hatch the eggs in. But that's just kind of wishful thinking down the road. It's not a goal of mine. If it happens, it'd be cool, but if it doesn't, then that's totally okay. I enjoy having 2 goldfish already, so. One thing that kind of disappoints me is that, at least on YouTube with iPhones, there's no goldfish emoji. If you type in like searching for goldfish, there's no results. So If you search fish, there's a few results, but they're like some weird blue and yellow tropical fish. Maybe one day they'll have a goldfish emoji. That'd be super neat, but as for now, they do not, unfortunately. Something that's neat about goldfish, and I really do appreciate, is that they're pretty resilient in terms of water temperature. As I mentioned, my house right now is set to 80 degrees, so the water's like between 78 to 80 degrees during the daytime. But at nighttime, I set it down to like 71 or something for when I go to sleep. I can sleep a lot more comfortable at that temperature, obviously. And I don't need a heater in the goldfish tank because they enjoy colder temperatures, even in the wintertime. Like, as long as my house isn't freezing cold or anything like that, the water temperature, as long as the water temperature isn't like freezing, they'll do just fine. So I do not need a heater in the goldfish tank, which I appreciate. It just keeps the cost down, the maintenance a little less, I guess less electricity for heating up the water, but it's just one thing I do not need to worry about when I'm like taking care of my fish. I don't have to worry, oh, is the water too cold? Are the fish gonna die? You know, because they're not gonna die. So that's nice. If you guys have comments or suggestions about maybe other types of fish, holy moly, you see that? If you didn't see that, rewind like 5 seconds. Epifania literally blew like a ring. Like, you know how goldfish like spit out? She did that, but it was a ring, like a smoke ring. That was super cool. I hope it shows up on the camera. I've never seen that before. That was super amazing. But anyway, as I was saying, if you have a comment or a suggestion about maybe what other type of fish or creature or critter I should put in my tank, feel free to let me know because the tank's kind of looking empty right now. There's only these two little fish, and yeah, they'll keep on growing bigger, but I think it'd be neat to have like another small little school of fish. As for a crawfish, maybe this tank is big enough to where it wouldn't pose a threat to the goldfish, but still, I don't want it to like clip and kill my goldfish if they get too close to it. So I don't think I'll be doing that again. Or I don't think I'll be putting a crawfish in here is what I mean to say. It's been 58 minutes. Here in just a couple minutes, I'm probably gonna be signing off and ending the live stream. One minute left to go. Okay, everybody, so that comes up to an hour. If you watch this in the future, I will have appreciated your view time. I appreciate your likes, comments, any kind of interaction. I hope you enjoy watching at least part of this if you're watching the end of it. Epifania and Georgiani really do like you watching them as well. They love getting attention. So, yeah, that's about it. If you haven't subscribed, I do ask you to please subscribe because there's no reason not to, really. If you're watching this video, you probably like goldfish and aquariums and stuff like that, so it's worth subscribing. Anyways, thanks. I'll be signing off now.